everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a fun project for you today. Let's take a look at this quilt behind me. Isn't this fun? This is just such a great, happy quilt, and I just can hardly wait to show you how to make this. So to make this quilt, what you're gonna need is one packet of 10-inch squares, and we've used Classic Spot Candy by Kay Fassett for Free Spirit Fabrics. It's just a darling line. Who doesn't love dots? I love dots. Who doesn't love dots? You're gonna need some background fabric as well. You're gonna need 5 1/4 yards, or 5 1/2 yards, I mean, and that takes care of all this yardage in here and this first inner border. For your outer border, you're gonna need 1 3/4 yards, and we put a nice 6-inch border on here. And for your back, right here, take a look at that. Of course, we put the dots on it. We use the 45-inch fabric, the 45 wide. Actually, it's about 40 wide now. And you're going to need 6 yards of that with a vertical seam, 2 3-yard pieces side by side. Because this makes a pretty big quilt, and the quilt actually measures 82 by 91. So let me show you how to make this. This is a really fun block. It's arrows. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to cut some background pieces from your background fabric. And we're going to cut 2 1/2-inch strips, and we're going to cut 5 1/2-inch squares. So 2 1/2-inch strips and 5-inch squares. Out of our 2 1/2-inch strips, we're going to cut, and for each block, you're going to need 2 pieces of 2 10-inch pieces. So a 10 by 2 1/2-inch strip. And I'm going to trim my selvage off right here. And I'm going to just cut one of these. And I'm going to line it up on the edge, and I'm going to count over 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm going to make a cut here. And you're going to want to do this for every one of your blocks. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 10-inch square right here, and we're going to cut it in half, directly in half. So we have this great 5-inch ruler, which means we can lay it along the edge, and it'll cut straight through the middle. So we're just going to lay that here and cut this right in half. All right, so once you get your pieces cut in half, we're going to work with one piece right here, and we're going to sew 2 10-inch strips on either side. So we're going to lay a strip right here, and this is the body of our arrow, and we're going to lay a strip here, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch on this side and 1/4 inch on that side. So let's go to the sewing machine and do that. All right, now I'm going to line these up here along the edge, and I'm going to sew this down the side. All right, now I'm going to come up down the other side and sew the other one on. Just like this. Alrighty, so now we're going to press this. Let me move these out of the way. We're going to press this open, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of set these seams like this, and then I'm going to roll this back just like that. There we go. Nice and flat. Now see right here where I have this little piece that's kind of hanging over here, I'm just going to trim that off. So I'm just going to make that nice and even, and I can catch these threads. All right, so now let's do the top part. So this is the top part. This is going to be our point, and because we took 2 seams on the body of our arrow, this is now 9 1/2 wide. So we have to cut, 9 inches wide. So we have to cut 1 inch off this piece. All right, so there we go, 1 inch off. And then we're going to take our 5-inch squares, and we're going to make a giant flying geese. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 5-inch squares, and I'm going to crease them like this so that we can sew right on the line. And I'm going to do this to both of these squares. And this, because these are 5-inch squares and we're putting it on a 9-inch block, it's going to make it very difficult for you to lose your point, because it's going to connect down much further than 1/4 inch. So it's a real safe, easy way to make a point. All right, so what we're going to do on here right now is we're going to sew on this line right here. See right here? And then we're going to come around and sew about 1/2 inch, maybe a little less, right alongside it. And because we want to save that little triangle. So we're going to do that. So right on the line. And then we're going to flip this around and come over. Probably, mine's a little shy of a 1/2 inch, but just enough so you can cut in between. All right, now I'm going to cut this right here, and I'm going to put my ruler so it's right in between there. And then we're going to go to the ironing board and iron this back. And now we're ready. Whoop, don't want any creases in there. We're ready to add the corner on the other side as well. So here's this one. Right here. And again, you just line it up on the edge and you're going to sew right on the line. So we're going to go down here and sew this line. And then I'm going to flip around and sew to the outside of that line, about a 1/2 inch away. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to square those up later. All right, now let's press this open. All right, now we're going to attach our arrow point to the body of the arrow. Now this should fit exactly across here, and it does. And so we don't really have to center it up because it goes right on there real nice. And we're just going to sew 1/4 inch right across here. All right, now let's press this open. Whoops, my iron leaked a little bit right there. See if we can dry it. There we go. So this is our arrow block, and let's take a look at our arrow blocks on here. So we have 2 rows, 2 on each side, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 in each row. And I kind of did this as I went along. I wanted to see, you know, as I'm designing it, I wanted to see how long it's going to get, how big it's going to get. I like something that's a little more rectangular than square. So again, you'll have 42 of these, so you'll have a lot. So I have 4 rows, 9 in each row. I have used 36 of these arrows, so there's a few left. Now this middle part right here are the pieces we cut off the corners on the top of our arrow. So let me show you. I've got these 2 pieces right here, and because I didn't measure my my little, you know, when I came over and sewed a 1/2 inch, and I didn't actually measure that, I'm gonna want to square these so that they're all the same size. And because mine came out different sizes, I'm gonna want to square these to the biggest size I can get, which on mine worked out to be 4 inches. So I'm going to come along here, and I'm gonna scoot my little block lock ruler. I love these little rulers. They fit right on that center seam. And I put the words always go on the background for me because I iron to the dark side. And there, it's right on the 4, so I'm trimming off this little bit right here. And then let's trim this one as well. Yeah, I tried trimming them at 4.5, and mine just weren't all the same size, so it ended up working out better that they were right at 4. And I was able to get all of them I could trim all of them to the 4, but some of them were just a little bit small. So anyway, so then what we're going to do is we're going to sew these together like this in the flying V, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch down the middle of those. And then we're going to press this open. Now this I'm just going to press straight from that center fold, give it a shot of steam so that it lays nice and flat. I'm not worried about which way this seam goes. And let's talk a little bit about that layout now. So I'm going to gather these things up so we can talk about this layout. So I actually did several layouts. This was actually really fun for me because it's one of those things where you don't know exactly what's going to happen until you're done. And originally I was going to put all my arrows all over and stagger them, and I was going to do a sawtooth border around the corner. And, you know, I just had so many different ideas for this. And this is what we ended up with. And I really like it because it uses so many of the elements. So here's our arrows here, and we're going to sew those end to end like this. So 2, and I actually sewed mine in columns. So I sewed this whole column down here like this, and then this whole column right here, and then sewed the long columns together. And they just go right next to each other like this. So we're sewing these to these, and these to these. And then we have this awesome middle row where we have all of our little pieces that we cut off that normally don't have a place in our quilt, and we're using them in this, and I love that. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew 2 columns of these together, and then we're going to run these other ones that we cut off the sides right up the center. And I actually made my whole row of these like this, long, sewed them all together, and then I put a 2.5-inch sashing right along either side. And I love the look that it gives that middle section where it kind of seesaws back and forth, and it does that. So, you know, with you'll have your little 2.5-inch section. I have a little strip here. You're going to have one on each side, and then this column will go right next to it, and this column will go next to that. So one more thing, when you sew these rows together, this middle row is going to be a little bit different length than the other 2 rows. So I just put a little spacer piece in there and put it at the bottom and trimmed it even with my arrow rows when I sewed all of them together. So you can't even really notice it, and it just looks great, and then everything is the right size and you don't have to do crazy math. All right, one more thing. With my extra pieces, I made some really fun projects. So let me show you these pillows I made because I'm really tickled about them. So this one right here, I used 1 arrow, and then I put my flying geese pieces on the side going out like this. Isn't that cute? So I've got 3 pillows to show you, and they're just so fun. So this one, I had lots of these little flying geese left over, and I just put them all on this colorful, happy pillow. Isn't this so happy? I just love it. On the pillows, what I did was I just put my blocks together, sewed 3 rows of 3, put a little 2.5-inch white border around it so that it would all blend, and then I just laid it down on a piece of fabric and cut out the back fabric exactly the same, sewed all the way around it on all 3 sides and left all 4 sides and left a little opening. Then I just stuffed it full of polyfill and just whip stitched it closed. And I have one more to show you, cutest of all. Let me get these standing up there. There we go. All right, look at this one. We got our arrows going both directions on this, and a cute little row right down the middle. So this is just a fun project. It's a great quilt and some fun extra pillows to throw on the bed after you're done. And we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the One Direction quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.